next one I'm really excited to share because I'm fairly confident I'm the only human being on the planet, drummer community or not, that would have ever been, I don't know, silly enough, expansive enough, brilliant enough, stupid enough, something enough to think to do what I did with this. It is, right off the bat, if you know, I'm on a marshmallow pad. Except, I put a solid laminate on it. And, dude, it's one of my faves. I love Meinl. I love the company. I love the cymbals. I love this pad. Like, because my other marshmallow over at Homegirl's house, love my life keeping two of my pads safe from me. So the marshmallow, I got a little room here. That's basically what you're going to get. Right? But I was like, yo, laminate. Let's see if it go. And dude, I'm telling you, it go. Feel this thing. Look at the rebound of the thing. Without the mark. I don't know if you got. Yeah. 2 bounce. 3 bounce, 4 bounce. On a marshmallow surface. On the laminate, look at it. It's crazy. It's like a trampoline. You can just jump on it. And yet, it doesn't. It sounds so articulate and does not take 1 ounce away from the spongies. I got chops. So good. So, listen to that edge to center. And you can get like the 98 SCV buzz thing, the zipper, the that. Whatever the fuck that lick was, I don't remember that shit. I remember there's some grandmas there, and like a what bullet buzz. Anyway, yeah, love it. And then I'm feeling really like needing to work the fingers, and I don't want to have to think a whole lot about. I just want to feel my hands moving without a whole lot of like audio input, you know, on those extra sensitive days. The marshmallow, nothing like it. You can just sit there and wiggle your hands and. Yeah. But, yo, this is my... SCB reference? Anybody? Quad line. So, yeah. Marshmallows, rad. Love it. Okay. What's next? Or horny. Dude. Rampad. If you ain't got one, get you one. I'm giving you, wherever you are in your drumming journey, have one of these things. It's one of the coolest things in the whole world on a number of levels. Design, yes, cool, fine, plastic over, rim over, yada yada. rad. However they formed this bass is baller. There is literally a like itty bitty little rubber mat thing underneath this head. They strap it down, and the way that they designed the oomph of the mushroom underneath the thing, and it brings the head down at like an angle, right? And the result is that the center is the tightest thing on the planet. Like it just, you don't have to touch it. I barely move the stick, and I get response. Both physically and audibly, right? Yes, I know. Yes, I know. I'm 45 years old. Yes, I know. I'm not perfect. I don't have the perfect no more. It's okay. It's still in there like between 80 and 90% of the time. Like that flan was too open. A little too open. There's perfection. Truth-telling great-grandparent or 7-year-old kid, depend. Like, both, when you are 7 and you are 97, you don't care two hoots no more about what anybody thinks. You will say whatever. Baby, does this make my dress look my yes, it's fucking disgusting on you. Get it out of here. This pad does exactly that. Go to the edge. There's this weird, like, what is that? An inch gap between, I'm still not quite at the edge, but I'm really close. Here's the edge. Right? No? Yes. The problem is it's slightly slanted. And so as you go down into that, you almost have to raise yourself up just a touch, because here, those are crunched as fuck. Listen how open they are just by raising. Right? And then if you get down into the actual, you can't really play down in there because the ring's starting to get in your way. But as far as truthy pads that are comfortable, that are, I mean, you can put any design you want under here if you want pleasing to look at, if you care. But as far as my own visual preference, I love the plastic against the shine of the rim, against the both the reflection of the light coming off of and or the image underneath. But I also love the iridescence in this thing. I don't know if you can see it from there, but like, oh, there it is. It's got that like oil layer in the head where you see the, what is that? Blue, green, yellow, pinks, purples. Now, my only gripe about this pad, honestly, if you're in a small space like I am, it can feel pretty piercing. So if you're in a dorm room or something that's like a shoebox, or you're in a New York apartment, or you in a straw hut in fucking Zimbabwe somewhere, this is, well, the reverb in that would be baller. But anything remotely representing reverb, like you can hear how loud and piercing that is. It's crisp, it's wonderful, it's very honest. But that pop, but you hear that? You hear that crappy left hand that just farted out of there without a care in the world? Just off doing his own thing? Like, he's not interested. It tells you that immediately. You're just like, ugh, gross, what was that? It's a great exercise for like 6-8 drags on, right? Great pad for it. I could go back through and write 15 errors down the mat. There's about perfect. Not too shabby, man. Love this pad for its crispness and all the other things. Okay, oh, God, I don't want to fall into a rant about this thing, but it's like the outcome of the future, dude. I just don't know. I just don't know. So, let's start with the Yum Yum. You know what? I didn't want to say there's negatives about this, because there's not. I'm just undecided. Is the real God honest truth about it. It is the Vulcans. I think it's Vulcans. Anyway, Vulcans music. Tom's pad. Rubber bass. And some sort of like baller futuristic metal hoop that hugs this thing. And it sounds and feels precisely like you want it and think it to sound and feel. Very, 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 very poppy. Very crisp. Similar to the Ram we just went through. Very responsive. But unlike the Ram pad, which keeps its tightness, anything above here, this does not. This feels like playing on a pillow that's been tightened by, like, I don't know, a military stapler. And so you get a really, like, if you want to practice some really low, consistent tap height rolls, this is a great pad to do it. I will say, at the lower heights, be careful. There are spots where, depending on your velocity, it's like hitting a bass drum without a hole in the front head. The little bit of air can kind of push you back a little bit and can interrupt perfect diddle interp. So be careful with that. Like, this is just barely throwing down, right? I don't even care about interp at this point. I'm just letting the stick sort of fall. Not really trying to control it. That is nothing more than wrist control. There's no fingers. It's getting harder at that height, though. Add fingers. Now it's a lot more consistent, right? And I'm realizing too, this thing is deceiving in how it makes you work. As you get higher, it makes you work not only harder for physics height issues, right? But there's something about the way that the air goes through this head and out the edge of this pad. There's a vacuum sucking, rebound pushing vortex smoking around in here. And the technique used for this at this height to get good sound quality is very different than here. I gotta work for that same sound quality, but I also know that I don't have to risk the pad sucking the air back in. I have to work for every one of those notes. That's gorgeous. But if I come down to here, like all of a sudden, like I have to give my forearm like a nap or something. Like it's gotta relax, because the tendency is to pound because you're up here having to, and you get down here and all of a sudden your fingers are like, dude, just chill, and you just bounce it. There's no effort in that. That's like that, you know, Phantom 95 Dave Leonard stuff. It just, that was Tom Float. My apologies. Mark Thurston. Dude, you remember how in that early thing I talked about the first time I played on the Biosphere, time stopped? I will never forget as long as I live. It was the first time that Mark Thurston brought over, and he was playing with Tom Floats. That's why I had the mix-up. He's playing with Tom Floats with the nylon tip. And that dude came in on my drum 3. I was playing tenors at Spirit back in the day. And this dude come over, match grip, and he just said, except it was 9,000 times faster and 9,000 times lower. He said, Jesus. Right about there. Now notice, I have to let my fingers fly and my whole body cramp into itself and my face turn into like I'm constipated to keep that sound quality going at that speed. He did it that fast at this height. And with the most incredible, never mind the consistency. No. Forget that. His sound quality, it was like he had magic chi floating through his arms, into his hands, into his fingers, into his sticks, onto the head, on just... Dude. And mind you, as a comparison... Anyway, that's the Vulcan's Tom Pad. I have fallen in love with it while making this video. Like, I've loved it, but I wasn't sure if I loved it enough for it to stay. And now I am. So, I was instructed by a guy named Tim Church. And this dude marched 3 years of Blue Coats and 3 years of Cavaliers. 14, 21, whatever it is. I asked him one day in a rehearsal or in a lesson, like, dude, how did you get the hands that you have with the sound quality you have? Like, it doesn't make sense. He said, well, I locked myself. I come home on Friday. I do all my homework. And then I lock myself in my room on a Friday night. And until Sunday night, I would pick a rudiment, like Flam Drags. And I would start it at 40 beats a minute. Chut. Dut. 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 Chut. Dut. 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 And I would stay there for an hour, and I would move it up one beat a minute. And over the course of like a month, I would take Flam Drags from 40 to 250 or whatever asinine speed. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. That formula checks out. There's no other reason, because he had this thing called the Fury, and it was a nickname for the strength with which he played through the head. He broke snare heads. We went through dozens of tenor heads, all because he would play through them as he was tuning them. And he would be on the floor drumming some shit, and he would break the stick on the floor, just playing a lick, not trying to slam the, no, just and he looked up at us and said, when you feel the fury, and the whole room laughed. It was just one of those moments of like, we are a room full of drummers. Only the drummers in this room will understand what just happened and the beauty of it. He played with that kind of sound quality. And so when they made up, when I heard this rumor that they went out and did a full show rehearsal of, I don't know if it was 93, 94, 95. Somewhere in there he was doing cavies, and he was the only tenor player on the field as they did a run through with the entire corps, and you still could hear the tenor part in every single tap, every note, even though it was just him. And at one point they asked him, like, dude, you have to take your volume away. You have to. Like, you're overpowering everybody else. Yeah. It was, I remember one time that dude played on my quads for 15, 20, 30 seconds while they were on my carrier. I had lower back pain for like 3 hours. So, in contrast, that dude was in the room and he played on a snare and had this like grueling, destroying redwood sequoia thick sound quality coming out of the drum. And here comes Mark Thurston on the snare. And it was like that dude played with the flap of birds' wings. It was so light, it was so feathery. But I'm telling y'all, like, mind you, I'm over here, the snare line's over here, He's over here, I'm over here, and we're in this like old rehearsal room, one of them old school like 70s band rooms with like fucking 50-foot high ceilings, and he played the same passage after Tim. And it was the craziest thing because the visuality of the technique could not have been more different. And the sound quality he brought out of that snare, like Tim's sound quality started at the drum and formed an ever-expanding square that was very like spreadsheety, like fucking straight edge 90-degree angle kind of things. And here comes Mark. He plays that same passage, and I'll never forget it as long as I live. If you've ever used a singing bowl, after you do the round circumference kind of exploration, the sound will fill the room and then it will bounce off of corners and what have you. And it appears to travel and just kind of bounce around the room and feel like it's coming from reverse and whatever. You can do the same thing if you go outside. You'll hear it bouncing. It'll sound in its decay like it's coming from 2 yards over. It's really disorienting. And if somebody was outside listening and they had never heard that sound, they would have thought the aliens are coming or something. But it was that kind of surrounding. Mark would play the passage and the sound would go from the top of the drum. It would go up, over, out of the room, back into the room 20 feet lower, and come into you, and then surround and hug you, and then come back up and surround the back of the drum, and then back into the center. I mean, it was just the most. The dude started playing that passage, and you were in a marching snare snow globe of sound quality. I've never. It would have been impressive by itself, but it's the fact that he, was just barely touching that drum, just flopping his stick, and rawr. Never heard anything like it before or since. And every drum corps drummer, don't get me wrong, I'm a drum set player myself, but I know a lot of kit players that don't know the first thing about hands and sound quality and heights and all the rest of it, which is fine. I'm not dogging on them, but it's a different world it's an expansion of understanding. And ditto, there are plenty of chop monsters out there that can't 2 and 4 with their feet involved if their life depended on it. But every drum corps drummer on the planet, if I but could, I would give them the gift wrapped in the prettiest wrapping paper I could find for them to hear the sound quality of Mark Thurston playing on that snare that night. Unbelievable. All right, 5 more pads to go. These actually ought to go pretty quick. Is that everybody up there?